everyone for hanging in there with us as we resolved our, technical difficulties. So, I'm so excited to be here with Estelle. So why don't you start again and just tell people a little bit about what you do?
Absolutely. So my background is as an attorney. I practiced law for about 7 years here in Memphis, where I'm from. I did civil litigation, and then I got into this recruiting space. And so I became a legal recruiter for a company where I placed lawyers and paralegals. And then I was Dean of Career Services at University of Memphis Law School. And that was super fun. And now I am Director of Professional Development at a law firm here in Memphis as well. And it's wonderful. And then, the other thing you and I have talked about is I do help women. I'm really passionate about helping women empower themselves through style. So that's something that I do on the side, on the weekends, things like that. So but I love talking about anything career related, style related, anything that you can do to boost yourself up and to go after your dreams. So happy to be here.
Well, I'm so excited. I was so excited when I met you on Clubhouse a while ago, and I know we spent some time there. And it's so true. I think the whole idea of the image, the clothing you wear, how you present yourself, your hair, and everything. It's what people see, but it's also how you feel. That I
definitely
think is a really big difference. So one of the things that I find from being a resume writer is people just jump into a job search. They say, oh, I think I'm going to just start looking for a job. They don't worry about the resume or LinkedIn profile, and then all of a sudden somebody contacts them and says, where is it? And I'm guessing that people are like that with their clothing as well. They're like, okay, they reach into the closet and they pull out whatever it was that they wore, I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe, or 5 years ago. So what would you tell somebody, if I'm now thinking, you know what, I'm going to look for a new job. What should I do as far as like wardrobe goes?
Well, I think you need to do an assessment of your current wardrobe and, things that you want to look for. Is it in good condition? Is there anything about the clothing that's dated? When you buy things that are investment pieces, they tend to stand the test of time. And so those kind of pieces will last for years. But anything that looks dated, fit is super important. Fit's actually the most important thing, in my opinion, in having great style. So more than cost, it's do the clothes fit you well. And that's when people really look sharp and professional, and that's when they're looking their best. But yeah, I would do an assessment of what you have. How do you feel? That's another, like you said, that's a gut check. Does it make you feel powerful? If you're wearing something that makes you feel like you were 10 years ago and you were in a less advanced position, then that's probably not what you want to be wearing. So it's really just about showing up polished and professional and feeling good and confident. So,
I as I recall, we talked about this before. If someone is on a budget, I think you mentioned the idea that, if you can spend less, but have it tailored, or how does that work? And what should they look for, and how cheap can they go?
Well, obviously, if you want to look for deals, it's great. If something is marked down, but it was a higher price before, then that's a good thing. I always tell people to buy the best quality they can afford. But really, yeah, it would be more worth it to buy something a little bit cheaper, but have it fit you impeccably by going to a tailor than to spend a lot of money on something that doesn't fit you very well, because then it's going to look like you're wearing your mom's clothes, or, it's just not giving the authority and trust and powerhouse look that you're going for.
Yeah. It's funny. I go up and down on the scale, and people tend to, if they're feeling like, oh, I need to lose a few pounds, they'll wear something that's bigger in a way that makes them look worse. So when someone is getting ready for the job interview, how do they gauge like how formal or informal they should be? When I worked in corporate, you're sitting there in a casual office and somebody walks in and they're there looking for a job and you're wondering if it's your job. But, so how do people gauge, is it better to be more formal or less or?
Yeah, I would always rather be overdressed than underdressed, because, there's nothing worse than seeing you're going in for a job interview, you're trying to put your best foot forward, and everyone in the room is wearing a suit and you're wearing, casual pants. I mean, that's not going to make you feel good. But if you're more dressed up, you're going to feel more polished and professional. And, as a general rule, yeah, you probably want to look online and check out the company and you can gauge somewhat maybe what the culture is. But, if you're trying to present, this is your first impression, then I would say wear a suit. I don't think you can go wrong, unless they tell you repeatedly, we're very, very, very casual. And, that's one thing if they make a big deal about it before you go in. But I just think first impressions matter, and I'd rather be overdressed.
So I'm guessing you're saying a suit for men and women. I see women, a lot of them on TV, with the suit seems to be replaced by, the sheath with the jacket or something that matches. So which is it? I mean, is it like skirts? Is it pants, or does it really matter? Or?
That's a good question. For me in legal, that comes up a lot. Like, is a pantsuit okay versus a skirt suit? Of course, I'm in the South. And so, I think if you're wanting to be super conservative, I would go with a skirt suit just until because, I feel like that's don't think that you could find any objection to that. But, I think pantsuits are probably fine too. But yeah, if you're trying to gauge, I think I would just, something conservative, because you don't know these people yet. And you don't know, you haven't physically been there and know what other people around are wearing. So I think I would just, go with that. Now, you're right. A lot of people, and I think women in particular, we have so many things that we can wear, which is what I think is super fun, because you can wear a dress and a jacket over it, or you can wear different things. And I don't think there's anything wrong if you have a black dress and a blazer that's conservative, you can wear that. But I still think, I would wear a blazer, a blouse, and a skirt. So okay. That's okay. What I think, just to be on the safe side.
No, I hear you. And, I think it's always better in that situation, to be overdressed rather than underdressed. But no, I've also heard, because, people, I've done this myself. I had a big interview coming up. So I went and I bought a new outfit. And I have heard that it's not a good idea to wear something that's brand new, because you might be uncomfortable in it. So what do you advise? New, not new?
I think that whatever you wear, you need to practice like sitting down in it, seeing if you're comfortable. Especially with women, like, do you feel like if you're wearing a skirt, is it hitting you at the right spot? Are you feeling like, very comfortable? Then, I think you could wear it. So from that perspective, I don't think it necessarily matters if it's new or not. It's just, but you want it to be, one thing that is another just point that, you want it to be very pressed and steamed. Like, you don't want to be wrinkled. Wrinkled is bad. So, and you don't have to spend a ton of money. You can, hang something up in the shower, or get a steamer for relatively inexpensive. But I think that's super, super important. Did I see a question? Do we want to address that?
Yeah, Tom in the audience says that, being overdressed can cause the interviewer to feel uncomfortable, like you're interviewing at, I guess, a tech company like Google or Facebook. So what do you say about that?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think where you're interviewing is important. And if the culture is known for being very casual and they tell you that, and that's what it is, then, you want to respect that. So you're right. There's sometimes if it's Google and everyone knows it's a really casual place, then maybe you don't want to wear a suit, or if you're a gentleman, maybe you don't want to wear a tie, but you can bring a jacket. So I just think that, in general, as a general rule, I would rather feel a little bit more overdressed than underdressed. So
I've also heard people say that, you can ask like HR, what's the dress code or something.
That's true.
before you go there. So,
That's very true. And a lot of my experience does come from the legal setting, both in a law firm or, things like that. So you want to know the dress code for wherever it is you are. And if it's super casual, you want to, not go in too high power.
oh, okay, great. So, one thing that, virtual interviews, when I was recruiting, in 2012, quite a while, almost a decade ago, people were already doing virtual interviews, even for local candidates, because it was easier, it's more convenient for everybody. And although, everything has been really, really, only virtual until, recently where you wouldn't meet anybody in person unless you were maybe one of the last two. Is there any, before we get to, we have some questions here, but before we get to that, is there a difference, do you recommend for, virtual? I mean, because I know, when you're on video, stripes can look weird. You see people on TV and, they're not casters, but guests, and the ties are all weird. And
yeah, you definitely don't want anything that's distracting. And you're right, certain patterns can look psychedelic on the screen. So I always recommend do a dry run, just practice on Zoom and see how you show up in the screen. Because that way you can see if there's something super distracting, and make sure that the image you see in the box, because that's what they're going to see. So I definitely do a dry run for that.
Okay. So Tom is asking if you can dress too sexy. Now Tom is he has a resume writing, area, and also a recruiting area, as does Michelle, who's also in the audience. And I think that's part of where their questions are coming. So he wants to know if women can be too sexy, and, if that can be a problem, and how to avoid that.
Yeah, I definitely think that could be a problem. When you're going in an interview, it's definitely different from going on a date. You are there in a professional capacity. And so I think, you definitely want to be mindful of that. So conservative is the way to go in an interview in all respects, in my opinion.
Okay.
So hopefully that answered it.
Yeah, I think so. And Michelle also said that, it's regional, as you had already mentioned, Estelle, that she's in Austin and they never, ever wear suits. So, legal or finance. So, I guess it really does make a difference. I know I worked for actually a CPA firm for a while, and it was, you couldn't, like jeans weren't allowed. And yet I worked in publishing and everybody was in jeans all the time. So, it definitely does make a difference. But, that's what, and I think you and I had talked about this in Clubhouse, the idea that the regionally it can be different. You mentioned the South being more conservative. I know when I've talked to you before, I'm here in the Northeast. I live 60 minutes from New York City. And, today I didn't wear black, but, so I'm gray instead of black. But, people tend to dress that way. And how can people, I mean, did you just base it on where you live? Do you have any tips on regional differences?
Yeah, I mean, I think every region or area has its culture, as does every industry. So, like I said, my background is in law, which is very conservative. But, I think that, like you said, you could go to HR to ask for questions. You could, I mean, I don't know. I guess my answer is I'm not sure there is a definitive answer to that. I think it just depends on where you are. And trying to get a good lay of the land, and asking people, ask peers that that work in the industry. That's always helpful. Tell them what you're doing. Ask them, what is the standard, that kind of thing.
It sounds then more that based on what you're saying and based on what, Michelle also said in her comment, is it's more industry related than regional.
I think so.
Which is different than what I had read, several years ago, that industries were really different. So, one thing that I also, think about when I mention the idea that someone comes in and, if you're working at a job and you have an interview, even if it's a virtual interview or if you have to go to an interview right after work or in your lunch hour. So how do you work that in to your wardrobe so that, you're not going into your current job and people looking at you and going, oh, okay, Annette has an interview today with somebody else?
Yeah. I think that if you're going to be interviewing, that you should kind of step up your game a little bit before that interview so that it's not such a drastic change. If you're someone who doesn't dress up or, leave the blazer in your car for if you're going to an interview and not wear it into the office. I think you want to be cognizant of that. And even if it means, changing after you leave, if it's that drastic of a change, then do it. Because you do want to, you don't want it to be such a drastic change that everyone knows you're going on an interview. Yeah.
Yeah. So, maybe wearing slacks a couple of days a week instead of the jeans every day, just working in a few more, I don't know, stepping it up, but in a gradual way. So it's not all of a sudden, boom.
Yep.
So, one of the things too is, I think we've all heard the phrase dress for success and dress for the job you want. And, all of, that type of thing. And what about when you're in corporate? And one of the things that people that I talk to, I tell them, you have to make sure that your boss knows what you do. You have to make sure that you're, having your resume ready, even if, you're trying to get a promotion, because external people are going to, your competition. And if you're, thinking you start off at a company and you're thinking, next year or in the next 6 months, I'm going to be looking to get promoted into something. What are some steps you can take?
Yeah, I mean, you can start up leveling what you wear, even though you're in a certain position and you want to go to a higher position. Anyone can, elevate their overall look, again and again. That comes back to feeling confident in what you're wearing, and, knowing maybe you could go try to find some, Nordstrom's has some personal stylists. Maybe you can go there and just have them help you if you're not sure that what you have is flattering. There's so many things that go into fit, so you want to make sure that your clothes are fitting you well, and that you feel comfortable and confident. That really is. And like you're saying earlier, and I really believe this, so much of style and how you present yourself, it's how it affects you internally. Because a lot of times when we were in the pandemic working from home, I was dressing up for myself. So I knew I'm going to work now. It's not very motivating to go to, even though you could just go from the bedroom to the next room over to hop on your laptop. It's not motivating if I'm sitting in pajamas all day for me. So, I think that so much of it is what you're telling yourself through what you wear, that what you're doing matters, that it's important, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I plead guilty of that. I plead guilty of that. I embarrassingly enough, took to going out in my slippers, during the height of the pandemic. But that's another story. So, since you brought that up, what are some things that people, who work from home, because a lot of people, I think, maybe working from home more often, maybe a couple of days a week. How do people motivate themselves, and what should they have for their wardrobe for at home?
Yeah. Well, you want to be comfortable, and I get that. And a lot of people say that. And the thing that I always try to tell people is you can be comfortable and professional looking. You just need to know what types of fabrics to wear and what things to buy. So for me, like one fabric that I think is amazing is called Ponte. It's Ponte, and it's like a synthetic, but you feel like you're wearing pajamas. It doesn't wrinkle, but it looks put together. So, I would recommend having some pants that are in this Ponte material so that you are actually wearing pants, but you're comfortable. And, I think that you want to have, an outfit. You don't want to wear what you wore to bed. So, it's just not, I feel like it's not going to be sending yourself the right message. But yeah, you could wear pants, if you have Zoom calls, you could have a couple of blazers that you throw on, or even a cardigan. Something, I always tell people that like if you have a third piece, that's what tends to put an outfit, like what creates a finishing touch. So for example, if you just have on a blouse and a skirt, but you throw a jacket on, all of a sudden you have an outfit. Or even if you throw a cardigan, like there's something magical that happens when you get a third element that makes it everything come together and look polished and professional. So I think you want to have some of those third elements for when you do have the Zoom calls. But you know, if you're just working in your house by yourself all day without Zoom calls, I don't think you have to walk around with a blazer on. So
no, I agree. And, I try occasionally to, step up a bit if I'm on a call with a potential client, although by the same token, I want to be myself. So I have like a pink denim jacket like that I wear sometimes that, it's a little bit more formal than, the t-shirt, but it's not really like me in a blazer would not be the impression I would want to show to my clients, because that's just not me. And we're working pretty closely together.
yeah.
So what, where's a place to shop then? You mentioned Nordstrom, having personal stylists. I mean, that's a little pricey for a lot of people. What about somebody who's, maybe earlier in their career or mid-career, and, it's not that they, have no money, that they have to go to like Walmart and buy something for their job interview. But where can people shop where it's, mid-priced, but, they can find, decent, long wearing, as you mentioned, sort of like capsule outfits. Where can people shop for things like that? And the second part would be, do you recommend online, buying things online?
Yeah, I think online is the way to go, mainly because, nowadays a lot of stores don't have all the sizes in when you go in person anyway. And so you're, maybe not be able to try something on that's in your size. But to answer the first question in terms of where to go, I think if you're wanting kind of reasonable prices, but, still things that are going to look nice, I think Macy's is a great one. Macy's is always having sales, always. You could go to TJ Maxx and find good things there too. You kind of have to know what you're looking for in some of those stores, but like Macy's for sure is going to have, professional looking clothes at good deals. They're always having sales. You can bring in coupons. So I think that would be, if price was a concern, but you wanted to look sharp, that would be my recommendation.
Okay. And they have, I'm sure, a lot of, robust shopping, online.
They do. And they have a plus section and a petite section. So yeah.
Any other, any companies, like online companies, this may be just way off base, but I know even Amazon has their own basic clothing line now. Are there any sites or companies that you would recommend that people might want to just check out for, workable interview or just, work clothes?
Yeah. You're right. I mean, Amazon has that Prime wardrobe thing where you can try things on without having to pay, and then send back what you don't want. A lot of people swear by that and finding places there. You can also find things like Nordstrom Rack. And so a lot of times when you are doing like the big box stores like that, you do want to kind of know what you're looking for, because it could get overwhelming if you're, it's a huge online store. But you could look in the suits department, or you could look, wherever. You can type in blazers, and just narrow your search. But yeah, like Nordstrom Rack. Another really good place that has reasonable price is a store called Universal Standard, and they have sizes from, very, very small to, much larger plus size. And they have very conservative, a lot of it's more basic. You're not gonna see a lot of prints. It's a lot of solids, but they tend to have sales too, and it's a lot of that comfortable material. So that's a find that I found in the last year that I really like. So yeah, it's called Universal Standard.
I just wrote that down. So that's an online store.
Yep.
So that's great. And the thing about solids is that you can really, mix them up and rewear them, and, maybe go to, a couple of interviews. Nobody's going to notice if you're wearing that same black blazer, 2 or 3 times. So,
exactly.
One thing I want to mention to you, I was at the dentist recently, and I think I mentioned this. I think I messaged you about this. And my dentist said that he has really seen over the pandemic a real upswing in cosmetic dentistry, because people are on Zoom all day. They're looking at themselves. and they, they don't like what they see because, like right now we're here, we're looking at each other, we're looking at ourselves. When you're on
Right.
Zoom, you're looking at yourself. And so, he said he's seen a real uptick, and that makes me think that probably dermatologists are seeing an uptick as well for people, maybe wanting to get a little injectable or something like that.
Could
So,
be.
so what's your take on that? Have you heard anything like that? Or, what do you see?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's so individual, how, like, if you wanted to do so, like, there's so many people who just do not want to do anything cosmetic surgery wise. They just want to do makeup or, and kind of like what you were saying earlier, like, you just have to be you. I'm not someone that wears a ton of makeup. And so I'm not going to just slather on a bunch because that wouldn't be me.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to make sure I'm groomed. And, you could do that whole, what is it? The Zoom touch up my appearance is always a nice little feature that you can do.
I don't use Zoom. I use GoToMeeting, so I haven't seen that, but I've
Yeah.
heard about it, that you can, it's like people that have their LinkedIn profile photo, and it's just like, it's so photoshopped that it doesn't even look like them, which is, which is a bad thing. But
Yeah, you can go too far with some of that.
absolutely. So
For sure.
Stephanie was just saying that she has tried scheduling interviews in the morning so that she can change before she gets to her job. And congratulations, Stephanie. She just got a new job recently. So,
Oh, wonderful.
kudos to her.
That's awesome.
So, talking about trends, what are some wearable trends? Do you have any suggestions, for men as well as women? I mean, we have primarily women here, but to be honest, most people watch LinkedIn Live on the replay. So do you have any suggestions for both?
Well, when you say trends, do you mean things that are just popular right now that are more of the that you don't anticipate lasting? Is that what you're talking about when you say trends?
Well, I guess I think so. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
Over the winter, like fake, like shearling kind of, jackets were, I mean, things that you would wear in the house, not even outdoors. And they were, they're just made out of, you wash it a couple times. I've had mine, and, it's not going to be around next year, but it was kind of cool for that time. And, not an interview outfit thing, but, what are, if something that you might be able to add, if you have a nice black suit or blazer or something, and, you want to look a little bit more up to date, particularly if you are maybe in tech or you're in publishing or, fashion or something, marketing, where, people are thinking more about, the whole image. What are your suggestions for something like that?
I think the easiest way to incorporate trends into like a professional setting is through accessories. And for men, that's ties. For women, it can be jewelry, scarves, things that are going to be accent pieces that are fun and fresh, but that, you're probably not going to want to spend just a ton of money on trends because that they may not, that's the whole purpose, that they don't necessarily last. But I always tell people too, if there's something that you love that may be trendy and you don't care, or that you just love it, get it, and enjoy it. Right. I mean, but I think as a general rule, if you're trying to be very thoughtful with your budget but you do want to add some fun, you can do earrings, you can do scarves, things like that are going to just show some personality without breaking the bank and without totally overtaking the look.
Okay. It's funny. I was just remembering years ago, when I was working in publishing at the time, and, dead broke. And I bought it was a plastic fake crocodile, but not trying to look real. It was like a maroon kind of color. And I'll tell you, I carried that bag around. I had so many people compliment me on it. They were like, "Wow," or a red bag or something that people, notice. And I love that you were, talking about going to, TJ Maxx, and there's another one I can't think of. And when I was first shopping them, I would have to drive to New York, to Westchester, to find them. And now these places, I think we have 2 TJ Maxx in my city that I live in. And when you go for something like that, you're going shopping, I've heard, and actually I've tried, and it was helpful to have a list of what I was looking for. So, how do
Yes.
you create that list? How do you, when you go shopping, is that the best strategy, and why?
Yeah, I always recommend having a list and being intentional when you go shopping. Especially if you're trying to be conscious of your budget and all that. What I recommend for people is, when you do like a seasonal closet cleanse, where you're getting rid of things that don't fit, that are in poor condition, that kind of thing, then take an inventory. If you have 20 blouses, but only one pair of pants or one skirt, there are only so many outfits you can create. You got to have a mix of a foundational base of bottoms and tops and blazers and dresses and things like that. So when you do that, kind of a great time to do is when it's a new season and you're, going through and looking at your seasonal clothes, make a list of what is missing. Where are the gaps in your wardrobe? And then go to the store with that list. And another thing that I think is helpful is I wouldn't recommend, if you're really being conscious of the budget, to buy things on sale unless it's on your list. So how many times do we go in and be like, well, it's on sale, and you get it and it's just like something else you have hanging in your closet and you don't need it, and then you're like, oh, I should have bought something else and now I have to wait, that kind of thing.
Guilty.
Sure, we've all done it.
I saved 40% on something that I didn't need and will never wear, and it's hanging in my closet. And another, if you can talk about some of, because that's a mistake. I'm glad you brought that up. I have occasionally, I think other people do this as well. You find something, you like it, and a t-shirt with maybe a little, I don't know, design element to it. It's not perfectly plain, and you buy like 4 colors, but you never wear any of them. You wear like one. Like I wear the black one. I have the lavender one and the white one sitting in my closet. So how do you keep yourself? It's kind of like, I think you go to the grocery store, if you go hungry and, you buy everything. And how do I'm certainly not a shopaholic, and I don't love to clothes shop, but I just, I think I'm a bad shopper.
Well, it's funny you brought up the grocery store, because I think I had a quote the other day that, going shopping without a list is like going to the grocery store when you're hungry, because you're going to make poor decisions. It's going to be what's on sale, what looks good in the moment, what someone else tells you should get, even though you don't need it. So I think that's the most, the best advice I could have, is just to have an intentional list. And, you could do YouTube videos and find, like I have a professional wardrobe checklist that I have for women, because that's mainly who I style, but, get a list somewhere, compile of like, what are the must-haves I should have in my closet? And if you don't have that, start there. Once you have your foundational pieces, then you can start adding in some more personality. But I think where I see women struggle the most is having too much of one thing and not enough of a well-rounded wardrobe. So the first things first would be to make sure you have your base of items and then start adding in more fun pieces.
So, you mentioned that you do work with, clients, you work with primarily female clients. So when they come to you, what are the things they come to you for? Because whatever problems they have are probably problems that, I have, and so many, other women have. I am guessing they're not like just individual to them.
Yeah, I would say the most common are, I'm very bored with what I have. My clothes don't reflect me or my personality. I wear black all the time and that's it. Or, I keep wearing the same 3 outfits on repeat, and I want to elevate my style. I want to feel more confident. That's a huge one. I want to feel more confident. I've just been promoted to a job, but my wardrobe doesn't reflect it. And I need to show up as someone who has authority and trustworthiness. And I want to feel more confident and powerful with what I'm wearing. Maybe people have lost or gained weight, and so they need a reboot. And so they're ready at that point. If they have to go ahead and get new clothes, they want to just do it right. And some people just say, I just don't know how to put things together. I think one of the biggest requests is to look put together. And I think one of the biggest or one of the hardest things for a lot of women is creating an outfit, not knowing all the puzzle pieces and how that all fit together. So.
That's so true. And, I use a lot of color on the resumes that I write, but I'm not a designer and, I don't know. So I go to Pinterest and I have a bunch of color palettes and I use the color palette to make sure that the different colors that I'm using, look good together because I don't know. So if someone goes shopping, if they don't have how do they know? I mean, can you go to Pinterest and look for things
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in fact, when I work with people, that's one of the first steps I have them do is go to Pinterest. It's kind of like when you work with an interior decorator, you look around and see what you like and what you don't like. Because, everyone has natural preferences. A lot of times people think, oh, I don't have a style or I didn't have the style gene. Well, you do know certain things you like and things you don't. You just hadn't thought about it through that lens. And so going somewhere like Pinterest and just playing, it's not so serious, like, do you like that pin, and, if you've ever played on Pinterest, like if you find something, then it's going to give you 1,000 pictures below. Like if you like this, you might like that. And then you can just kind of go on this little maze and tour and, just pin. That's what I tell. Don't think too hard about it. Just pin what you like, make a comment. Like, I like those shoes, because if you get 50 pins, you're like, why did I pin that again? Like as you're pinning, I'd put a really quick note in it, but then it's like the puzzle pieces fit and you can sit back and look at, a board that has 35 to 50 pins and you start to see trends. And then you start to say, oh, it seems that I like this kind of look. And that's where you can get ideas. And, there are lots of YouTube. You can research, women's fashion or, whatever industry you're in, you can research that and probably find like YouTube videos or do it yourself. That's another way to just scour, the internet's huge, right? And there are lots of things you can find. It's really about, like, if you don't want to hire someone to do it for you, then the resource that you do have is time. It will just take you a little longer than someone who, is an expert, but that certainly is a way to go about it.
It sounds like the Pinterest sounds like the new version of, ripping pages out of fashion magazines. Which is,
exactly.
I'm old enough to remember that, you rip out the pages of the fashion magazine and, put them out on the floor. So, so there is with that. And, it does make a lot of sense. But, what about, shopping? Should you go with somebody else? Is that, because the saleswoman says, oh, it looks great on you. It could be me wearing magenta and they say, oh, it looks fabulous.
Yeah, I think, well, you want to go shopping with someone who has fashion sense, number one.
Okay.
But number two, I mean, if you want to go with someone who is a straight shooter and will say, no, you don't need that. You don't want a yes man when you're shopping and you don't know what you're doing, because that's not necessarily going to give you that critical eye that you need. So, and the other thing you could do is, if you're going alone, I mean, keep all your receipts and, take some photos of yourself in outfits, send them to a friend. Does this look right? Do you think this works? Crowdsource if you need to.
So any tips on, organizing the closet? I mean, is that something that you do with your clients? And I am one of those people, I'll tell you, it's a terrible thing, is that I tend to save everything. I have boxes of clothes, plastic sealed boxes of clothes that I'll probably never wear again. I have clothes in my closet that I haven't worn in 2 years, 3 years. But it's so difficult. I mean, how do you, you see on TV, say, oh, get rid of that, get rid of that. How do you know? How do you, do you put it away for 3 years and then give it away, or?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of try to think about doing a closet cleanse at least twice a year. And that's just where you kind of go through, see what doesn't fit. If it doesn't fit, it doesn't need to be hanging in your closet. If you can't dare part with it, put it in a box and put it away and go look at it 6 months later and say, do I still like this? Do I still want to keep it? Because when things are hanging in your closet that don't fit, then they're blocking you from finding the things that do. And that's very frustrating when you're trying to get dressed. And a lot of times it's, dream stealers. I mean, if you have clothes in there that's too small, that can be demoralizing if you're trying to be on a healthy kick and you're like, that doesn't fit, like that's just a reminder every time you walk in the closet, and who wants that? So fit, I think, is one of the most important things. The next factor is, condition. Is it in good condition? How many times do you have something that has a little stain? You're like, but I love it. And well, maybe if I wear this top, you won't see it. But then you see it, and then you don't end up wearing it. And sometimes you have to just let go of things. And then, so that's what I recommend, just kind of going through this closet cleanse, and then just making your closet organized, group things together, have all your jackets together, all your tops together, all your skirts. And then when you're getting dressed, it's a lot easier when things are organized than, you're digging in, your wardrobe trying to find a skirt that is in there somewhere.
So going back to the whole, when people are getting a promotion, because you mentioned that some of your clients, they're promoted and they want to look the part. Mm-hmm. So if I'm in corporate, who do I look to? Women, senior level women. If you're a man, do you look at senior level men and see, what are they wearing?
Sure. Yeah. You look at the people who are in those positions. And in addition, not just the people that are there, but the people that you like their style. Because if it's not you and you're dressing like someone else, then you're not going to feel like you.
So I'm sorry. So you were saying that look for people that you like their style, people that do you look for like people your age or people that are like you as well, or does it matter? I mean,
I think to get a general idea of like dress code, I would just kind of look at, I don't think it necessarily matters if they're your age, if they're in a position that is, how are they dressing? When you see meetings happening of people who are in similar conferences, it's another example,
okay.
Just seeing, what are people in those roles wearing? And that can give you kind of an idea of almost like a style uniform, like you notice that they're all wearing blazers or they're all wearing, certain type, dresses, whatever the case may be, you can get a feel for, okay, that's an overall, I always like to decode, outfits and kind of figure out like, okay, well, what are the elements of it? And then you can go recreate that yourself.
Tell me how to do that. Tell us how to do that.
Well, it's just like anything. I mean, if you, let's say you see an outfit on Pinterest that you like, and you realize that, well, okay, that person, I really like that outfit. She's wearing a black and white striped blouse, a black blazer, and jeans. What do I have in my closet that's similar? Well, I don't have a black and white striped blouse, but I've got a blue and white striped blouse. And do I have any toppers that are kind of like it? And you just kind of play around with it. I really encourage people to play. And another example could be, you see someone with a printed blouse. We don't maybe have the exact printed blouse, but you have a printed blouse and you hadn't thought about pairing it with this color. And, it's just all about taking apart the different elements of an outfit and seeing, okay, do I have anything similar to that at home? And what can I create that's going to have a similar vibe? So.
Right. I understand. So yeah, so that's a lot about like shopping in your closet first.
Yeah, absolutely. There are probably a ton of gems that you have. And sometimes, I think what people do is just get so frustrated. They're like, I'm just going to go buy a whole new wardrobe and just ditch everything I have. And it's like, well, there are some things in there. And again, that's when you kind of go back and do that inventory and see, okay, what do I like that's in here? What fits? And how can I, have more of a complete outfit? Do I have enough bottoms? Do I have enough tops? Do I have enough solids? If they're all prints, it's going to be hard to make outfits. So you have to have a blend of solids and prints and, tops, bottoms, and that kind of thing. So. Oh, I lost you. I can't hear you.
Yes, sorry, I muted myself so we could not hear the dogs as much. So
no worries.
So I can hear you. So, as we're getting close sort of to the end, what would you like to, what haven't I asked you that you think is important, that you would want to share, that you think would be helpful to people, listening to this?
Well, I think that once you kind of figure out what your style is, and everyone's style is unique, like once you kind of figure out your style preferences, I think that's the most important thing, is being authentic to what you are and having a wardrobe that reflects that. So if you're trying to be someone else, but that's not who you really are or who you feel you are, then people are going to feel, they're going to notice something is off. They're not going to be able to pinpoint it, but they're going to notice something off. And then that's going to impact your confidence. And, if you're selling yourself, whether that's in a job interview or with a potential client, you want to stand in your power. And the way to do that is to feel comfortable. And that means being authentic. So.
And, how do you know, for me, and I had mentioned this to you when we were first chatting on Clubhouse, I wear black all the time. I tend to wear black all the time. And, how do do I just stick with that if I like it, or I don't know. It's just, I feel so much like I would want to be more, trendy or whatever, but I don't know where to start. So what's somebody like me to do?
Yeah, well, first of all, I don't really think that there are any hard and fast rules. I think you do what works for you. If you like black, wear black, I don't think there's a problem with that. But if you're looking to expand and maybe try something new, try to look at it through the lens of a child and just having fun and playing and trying things. If you typically wear black, okay, go to a store and try on some bright colors and just see. Like, you may be like, yep, I hate these. I want to go back to my black, and that's fine. But try it and see. You just never know. It's all about experimentation and, sometimes stepping out of your comfort zone to see if there's something you like and you never would have thought you would. I mean, that's what I think a stylist does a lot for women, is just showing them things that they wouldn't have envisioned liking, but ending up liking. So I think it's about playing.
So since you mentioned that, I would like to ask you a question. I've used Stitch Fix for a while, and you mentioned something that, you try on something and they actually sent a dress to me that I would never have even tried on in the store ever, but I put it on and I loved it. And my husband said, "Oh, that looks great." And, do you recommend, I mentioned that name. It's the only company I know. I know there are several of them. Is that something that you would recommend to people to just, try a service like that? And, maybe for, I don't know, 3 months or 6 months or something to just get some new things?
I think it could be. I have mixed feelings about this, because I think it can be.
Okay. No, I'm curious. I'd like to know, what do you think? Okay. I'm not asking you to please endorse it. I just, what do you think? Is it something good? I mean, I know for me, I did it for a while, but I work from home, so I'm not out enough to really use the products.
No, I think the reason I guess what I'm kind of thinking about is the thing that I don't like about certain style subscription services is they're not tailor making it for you. Yes, you might say, I like this over that, or like fill out a general survey, but they're not tailor making it for you. And they're not giving you things that are based on your body shape. They're not asking you for your measurements. It's not intentional like it would be if you were to take an intentional shopping list to the store. And so sometimes what can happen is if you do those style subscription boxes, then you end up having a bunch of random stuff. And a lot of times people are like, well, I want to get my $20 worth, so I'm going to keep one garment that I really don't even like, but I don't want to waste my money. And then you have all these that you're like, I don't really even like this stuff. Why do I have all this stuff?
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes it can add to closet overwhelm if you do something like that, because it is not intentional. It's more haphazard. If you're just doing it for fun and you want to have some fun stuff, sure, you could try it. And if you don't mind that, sending a bunch of stuff back that you don't like, and who knows, every now and then you may find something you never would have thought of. But I think if you're using it for professional wardrobe, you might get really frustrated, because I just don't think that they are as intentional and it's not as tailored to you. I mean, you get what you pay for if you're only paying $20, And so if it's fun and you think that's a fun thing to do, I think go for it. There's nothing wrong with that.
So more for just like fun clothes and to try out some trends,
sure.
but not for the professional. So if people want to work with someone like you or you, do you work with people virtually? And how does somebody find a style coach that they can work with, or a stylist? And how do you know? I mean, I'm guessing it's kind of like resume writing, where so many people are resume writers who have not a clue. I'm sure that you have the same thing in your field, that so how do you know?
Yeah, I think like anything else, it's just a fit. Like, who do you vibe with? Who is someone that you feel comfortable with? And, a way to do that is just you can follow them on, social media. For me, I have a private Facebook group, and I have an Instagram channel. And, I think just find someone that you like their message, you like what they have to say, you trust them. And, you could just reach out to them that way. So that would be my best advice. It's just, who's that person that you vibe with, or, and you could also do a Google search and things like that. For me, my website's mainly just a blog, because again, I just don't do this, it's more of a side thing. It's not my full-time thing. And so there are other like stylists out there who do this all the time. And so that could be, you could go by referral, you could Google, research and things like that.
So if people want to find you, how do they find you?
Yeah. Well, I've got a Facebook group, and it is only for women, because I just, that's my thing. But yeah, if they go on Facebook, it's just, Facebook groups. If you look up Powerhouse Women, I have a group. It's just called Powerhouse Women Style Strategies for Raising Influence and Visibility. So you can go on there. Anyone can join. There's just a few questions that you have to answer, and then you can request to join the group. So
and what's your website? Because I'm guessing people can learn about the Facebook group from your website.
Absolutely. So it's just EstelleWinsett.com. So yeah,
so if they have your name, that's easier to remember. They just have your name, and that's .com, and that way they can learn about you. And if there's something that might have clicked with somebody who watches this. Most people do watch it on the replay. So So okay, well, thank you so much. It's been such a great pleasure. So we will say goodbye to the people that are still out there. Thank you. Several people have been here. Stephanie, since the beginning, and Ruth, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again next time.
That sounds great. Thanks for having me.